Hello options traders, welcome everyone. I just wanted to do a little different slant here than I normally do. Usually I put up videos about mostly options, but really anything with investing. This has a lot more to do with economics, but I think it's also equally important because options traders, investors look for opportunities. And where do we find those opportunities? Not just in the stocks or the options themselves, but because of what they represent of what's happening in the economy. So let's take a look at this one, which I call more green lights. And the reason I decided to do this is that you're starting to see a lot of articles that have this look and feel to them, talking about canceling student debt. And as this author says, canceling student debt loan isn't just a dream, it could save the economy. Why? Because think of all the money that these students would have. They'll spend more money. Those people in turn will have more money. We'll all have more money. It'll be this virtuous circle of prosperity. Well, if that sounds like a good idea, I got a better one for you. So I did some calculations as well. I looked up on the web and found out that the American Automobile Association says that the average driver spends 3,520 minutes at red lights each year. I also found that there's about 228 million licensed drivers in the U.S. So that means there's 802 billion minutes that we're sitting at red lights. So let's put a cost on it. We know that there's a cost because you're sitting there doing nothing. It's painfully so when you're stuck in traffic. Let's just say that it's $1 a minute. So you can see where this is going. That's $802 billion we could bring in, almost $1 trillion into the economy. That would also save the economy. So if we're going to cancel student debt, let's make it even better and increase the number of green lights. That'll really be another big plus. Now step back for a second, look at the calculations. It sounds like a good idea. The math all adds up, and everybody says, oh yeah, this must be a fabulous idea. Well, what's the fallacy here? Well, the fallacy is that one driver's green light is another driver's red light. Green lights must equal red lights. If you want to increase the number of green lights somewhere, you absolutely must increase the number of red lights somewhere else. Now, is it true that you might benefit from having more green lights on your way to work? Of course. But society as a whole cannot benefit from more green lights because you just simply cannot do it. Now, there's another group that's really on the opposite side of canceling student debt, and they were kind of fighting the consumerism idea. And there's a group out there that actually protests every year. I think it's actually the day after Black Friday, and it's called Buy Nothing Day. And they actually have these protests in March. We are against consumerism. What's consumerism? Well, the web defines it as the social and economic order that encourages an acquisition of goods and services in ever-increasing amounts. So again, we have to keep buying and buying and buying to keep society going. And sometimes people think that's what's going to be the fall of capitalism. We have to always be spending more. So, to save society, let's have Buy Nothing Day. Let's teach people to get by without spending money. Is that going to be a good idea? Is that going to help? Not at all. The two must balance. This is right back to the red light, green light fallacy. If you're going to make Buy Nothing Day work, you must absolutely have an Earn Nothing Day. You cannot just shift the lack of buying from one day to another and say it somehow is going to benefit. And the same thing with the debt. You can't cancel the debt on one segment of society and say that somehow it's going to benefit everybody. It's going to benefit some segments, but it cannot benefit everyone. It cannot benefit the economy because the two must balance. So what about with debt? Well, again, going back to debt, an individual can choose to go into debt. No question, as many of these students have chosen to do. But society as a whole cannot go into debt. Why? Because borrowers have to equal lenders. Red lights have to equal green lights. In order for somebody to borrow money, somebody has to be there to lend it. So that's why society as a whole cannot go into debt. Segments of society can go into debt, but not society. And because of this, society as a whole cannot benefit from the cancellation of a portion of debt. And by a portion, I mean a portion of society. It's just that portion that will benefit. So this also falls into another fallacy of economics called the fallacy of collective terms. So by collective terms, we just mean things like society, nation, government, we, us, things like that. And when you get a lot further with economic thinking, if you just think about people, there is no government, there are no banks, there are no institutions, there's just people. Can you tax a business? No, you can't. A business is just a thing on paper. It's just a made-up term. You can tax people, but you can't tax a business. And that's why, again, it's not a good thing for society to say, we're going to tax Amazon and shift all this money down to these people and we'll all be better off. Not true. You cannot make society better off by that. Okay, so just remember that there is no society without people. If you start looking at people in total, get away from words like government and banks and nation and society, and realize it's just people. And for the same reasons, canceling student debt isn't going to save the economy. But there are people who are going to throw out calculations and beliefs and articles out there arguing to the death otherwise. Most of the time it's because they have a political agenda to fulfill. But you as an investor need to keep your thinking straight and realize that this simply cannot happen. But if you're still somebody who believes that it will, that's fine. But I want you to think of something the next time you're sitting at a red light. Think of just how much faster the economy would move, and how much more money we would have, and how much better off we would be. I'd have more money, you'd have more money, everybody would have more money if we just had more green lights.